Why?
Bye.
Why?
Hamnet is getting a lot of award season buzz. Is that attention felt genuine, or is it just hype? Some films take you to a place you are not expecting, and Hamnet did that for me. It left me drained in a way I did not anticipate. A film is adapted by Maggie O'Farrell's novel and directed by Oscar winner Chloé Zhao. But once the story begins, none of that matters. What matters is that it becomes a story about love, a story about family, and a story about grief, and the way each person carries it differently. Some people turn inward, some turn toward the work, some hold everything together on the surface while everything inside shifts. This film understands all of that without spelling it out. What struck me most is how gently the film treats these ideas. There is no sense of emotional pressure being put on the audience. Nothing is forced, nothing is pushed. It just allows you to sit inside the experience. The story never feels like it's trying to make a point. It feels like it's allowing you to observe how people live with things they cannot fix. The film holds space for that, and that space begins to feel personal in ways I wasn't ready for. And one of the most honest ideas in Hamnet is the sense of shared grief. When someone carries heartbreak alone, it becomes a private landscape where you feel cut off from everything around you. This film suggests that grief changes when it meets community. When you sit among people who understand loss, something shifts, and that space becomes a place where you can breathe again. Not because the pain disappears, but because it is no longer carried in isolation. The film leans into that feeling with real care. It understands how grief scatters people and how connection slowly brings them back into the same room. That idea stayed with me long after the credits. There were several moments where I felt that collective experience happening in the theater. Not in a big dramatic way, but in a small shared stillness of people absorbing the same feeling. It reminded me how rare that is now. We all consume so much media alone on our phones, alone on our screens. This film reminded me what it feels like to experience emotion without having to explain it to each other. The performances anchor everything. Jessie Buckley creates a presence built on devotion, strength, and emotional transparency that never feels rehearsed. There is a naturalness to her work that allows you to believe every choice without needing to question it. And Paul Mescal offers a portrait of an artist who believes completely in his craft and still struggles the pull between that world and the people he loves. Their scenes together feel lived in, not performed. The love between them feels real. The frustration does too. The tenderness does too. And the distance does too. And the love for their children carries the same truth. The performances give the film its emotional center. What I appreciated most is that the performances do not lean into melodrama. There are no moments that feel constructed to make the audience react. The film trusts that if it remains honest in the small moments, the larger emotions will arrive on their own. And they did for me. More than once. Chloé Zhao's direction gives the story room to exist without interference. She has always had a gift for observing emotional truth without trying to shape it into something artificial. That instinct serves this film in a powerful way. The production design places you in a real world that feels lived in rather than staged, and the spaces feel occupied by history and routine. Light and landscapes all around the characters as part of their daily existence rather than something designed to impress. Nothing feels dressed up for awards attention. It feels like a film made by people who wanted to represent the inner life of a family rather than the myth surrounding it. There is an intimacy to the way this film unfolds. It feels like you are allowed into a private emotional space without being told where to look or how to feel. You are trusted to sit with it. The kind of trust is rare in films that receive this level of attention. It is easy for a film like this to be dismissed with cynical labels. I did not feel any sense of manipulation here. What I experienced felt grounded. I felt emotionally present. It felt shaped with care rather than awards ambition. Yes, recognition is probably inevitable, but the craft is at a level and the performances carry that depth and the direction holds that control. The production elements find a sense of harmony. But nothing about this film feels engineered. It feels lived in. It feels created by artists who wanted to speak honestly about love, parenthood, and the difficult things people carry without being able to name them. Award season is going to embrace this film. That feels clear, but the recognition is not what stayed with me. What stayed with me were the performances and how fully they opened the emotional space of the story. Jessie, Buckley, and Paul Mescal give deeply emotional work, and the film is crafted with real technical control. Because of that, the story reaches something universal, and for a moment, it felt like the whole room was carrying that same feeling together. This will not be for everyone. The film moves at its own pace. It asks you to sit with emotion instead of distraction, and it does not offer easy release. It does not rush to comfort you. If you are looking for something built on momentum and surface stimulation, this may feel distant, and that's fine. Not every film is meant to meet everyone in the same place, but if you're willing to meet this one where it lives, it could stay with you in a very personal way. And for me, it touched something I already carry. I cried throughout much of it. I cried at the love. I cried at the tenderness. I cried at the small moments between people who depend on one another. I cried because it felt sincere, and I cried because the film allowed me to feel something that did not need to be explained or justified. And that is rare. And there are many reasons why we return to films. And sometimes it's to escape, sometimes it's spectacle, sometimes it's routine, and sometimes it's because we want to find reflection of our own lives in someone else's story. Even when the story is set centuries ago. And Hamnet gave me that reflection. It reminded me that grief does not only isolate, it also can connect. It reminded me that art can hold what we struggle to carry ourselves, and it reminded me why I return to films that are built on feeling instead of noise. And for me, Hamnet is one of the most meaningful experiences of the year. Not because of its awards potential, not because of its pedigree, but because how it made me feel while I was sitting there and how it stayed with me afterward. Thank you for going on this film journey with me, and as always, be real.
Will you be brave?
Yes.
Will you be brave?
Brave!